Chief Medical Officer Billy Bryant discovers three hairless, glowing Cation cubs abandoned in the Nexus 7 station's quarantine chamber, their raw skin weeping with bioluminescent sores from a devastating fungal infection. The sight stops him in his tracks during his routine night shift inspection of the Mars-orbiting medical facility. The station's sensors triggered the alert 20 minutes ago: unauthorized docking, followed by a rapid departure. Now Bryant stands before the sealed chamber, watching the three infant forms through the transparent barrier. Their vital signs flash critical warnings on his medical tablet. The database identifies them immediately. Offspring of Ambassador Cora, current lead negotiator in the Earth-Cation trade agreements. Bryant's fingers fly across the console, pulling up information about their condition. Trichophyton stellaris, a fungal infection that strips away the prized fur of the feline-like Cations, leaving behind painful, glowing lesions. His heart sinks as he reads further. Cation protocol mandates euthanasia for cubs born with severe medical conditions. Their society, built on ideals of physical perfection, cannot tolerate such visible imperfections. The station's quarantine protocols compound the crisis without proper documentation. He cannot admit alien life forms for treatment. Bryant's hand unconsciously moves to the holographic pendant at his neck, displaying a small boy's smiling face. 5 years since a rare genetic disorder took his son, despite every treatment Earth medicine could offer. He won't let bureaucracy claim 3 more young lives. His fingers dance across the medical console, initiating emergency override procedures. Warning messages flash: unauthorized access, violation of interplanetary regulations, career-ending consequences. He dismisses each one. The station systems record every override, every breach of protocol, creating an evidence trail that will reach both Earth authorities and Cation officials. Long-range sensors light up with a new alert. Approaching Cation diplomatic vessel, estimated arrival in 5 hours, 4 to 7 minutes. Ambassador Cora's ship, no doubt, unaware her abandoned cubs have been discovered. Bryant seals the medical bay doors and initializes the sterilization protocols. His career, diplomatic relations between Earth and the Cation Empire, and most importantly, 3 innocent lives hang in the balance. He has less than 6 hours to find a treatment for a condition Cation medicine has deemed incurable. As the quarantine chamber cycles open, Bryant pulls on his isolation suit. "Computer, begin emergency medical recording," he commands, voice steady despite the gravity of his actions. Patient intake: 3 Cation cubs, critical condition. Initiating treatment against station protocols under emergency medical authority. The computer chirps acknowledgement as Bryant steps into the chamber. Whatever consequences come, he'll face them knowing he chose compassion over protocol. Now it's time to show the Cations that humanity's medical innovation can match their technological superiority if they don't arrest him first. Bryant's isolation suit hissed as he knelt beside the first cub, medical scanner humming in his gloved hands. The bioluminescent lesions cast an eerie blue glow across the quarantine chamber's sterile surfaces. His scanner interfaced with the station's biological analysis systems, data streaming across his heads-up display. "Computer, cross-reference fungal structure against known xenobiological databases," he ordered, fingers moving across the holographic interface. The results materialized seconds later. The fungus's molecular structure contained trace elements unique to the Cation homeworld. His tablet chimed with an incoming transmission. "Doctor." Marcus Henderson's weathered face appeared on screen, dark circles under his eyes suggesting he'd been pulled from sleep at the Mars surface base. "Billy, I've reviewed the preliminary data. These readings." Henderson's voice trailed off. "The fungal proteins are unlike anything in our records. Can we adapt our treatments?" Bryant asked, administering a stabilizing dose of modified pediatric medications to the smallest cub. Henderson's fingers flew across his own console. Maybe. The station's antifungal compounds could work, but we need to modify them. The fungus requires specific minerals from their homeworld to complete its life cycle. If we introduce competing minerals, we could disrupt its biological processes, Bryant finished. But the station's mineral stores, depleted last month, you'll need fresh samples. Henderson paused. Contact Sarah Martinez at Mining Outpost Delta. She runs maintenance, has access to collection equipment. Bryant initiated the call while preparing the medical fabrication unit. Sarah's face appeared, expression shifting from annoyance to concern as he explained the situation. My daughter. She swallowed hard. She had CF. I know what it's like when protocols stand in the way of saving a child. Send me the mineral specifications. I'll get you what you need. The cub's vital signs fluctuated on the medical displays. Bryant adapted human pediatric treatments, adjusting dosages based on their unique physiology. The smallest cub's breathing grew labored. Warning, the station AI announced. Approaching vessel has increased speed. New estimated arrival, 4 hours, 3 minutes. Bryant's hands moved faster across the fabrication unit's controls, programming modifications to the base antifungal compounds. The machine hummed, producing test batches while he monitored the cub's deteriorating condition. A new alert flashed across his display, encrypted transmissions between the approaching ship and the Cation homeworld. The station's computers decoded fragments. Contamination must be contained. Protocol violation. Ensure silence. The genetic analysis completed with a soft chime. The results confirmed his suspicions these were Ambassador Cora's cubs, but the data revealed more. Multiple medical inquiries under false identities, rejected treatment requests, desperate attempts to find help before abandoning them here. Solar flare warning, the AI announced. Radiation shielding increase recommended. Power redistribution required. Bryant watched the power distribution grid reorganize on his display. Critical systems shifted into emergency conservation mode as energy diverted to the radiation shields. The cub's life support systems flickered, stabilized at minimal sustainable levels. Sarah's voice crackled through the comm. Launching now. ETA 40 minutes if I push the engines past safety limits. Negative, Bryant replied, watching the radiation readings climb. Maintain standard approach. I'll keep them stable. He turned back to the medical fabrication unit where the first batch of modified antifungal compounds awaited testing. The smallest cub whimpered, its bioluminescent lesions pulsing in rhythm with its failing heart rate. Bryant reached for a fresh syringe, knowing each minute brought both salvation and discovery closer to his door. Bryant's eyes widened as the historical record scrolled across his tablet. Computer, access Mars Colonial Medical Archives, cross-reference feline fungal infections, first settlement period. The data streamed faster, revealing case studies from the early Mars colonies where Earth cats had developed similar symptoms. Dr. Henderson, Bryant called through the comm link, are you seeing this? The mineral composition in these early treatment protocols. Already analyzing it, Henderson replied. The similarity is remarkable. Our ancestors faced this same challenge when they brought the first cats to Mars. The lights flickered as another power surge rippled through the station. Warning indicators flashed red across the medical bay's displays. Bryant's suit sensors registered increasing radiation levels as the solar flare intensified. Emergency power redistribution in progress, the AI announced. Life support systems compromised in sections 3 through 7. Bryant disconnected the cub's primary life support units, initiating emergency transport to backup medical bay. He lifted the smallest cub, its skin still glowing with bioluminescent lesions. The creature's breathing came in shallow gasps. Sarah's voice crackled through the comm, approaching final docking vector. These radiation levels are off the charts. Main airlock power failure detected, the AI reported. I see it, Sarah responded, switching to manual override procedures. Bryant heard the metallic grinding of the manual airlock mechanisms through the hull. The smallest cub's heart rate plummeted. No, stay with me, he whispered, initiating chest compressions modified for Cation anatomy. The cub's ribs felt fragile beneath his hands. Sarah burst through the medical bay doors, carrying a sealed container of mineral samples. Her hair was damp with sweat from the physical effort of forcing the airlock. The radiation shields are barely holding. Bryant connected the cub to the emergency life support system. The vital signs stabilized but remained dangerously weak. The medical fabrication unit hummed to life, processing the first mineral combination. Toxicity levels excessive for Cation physiology, the AI reported after testing the initial batch. Adjusting mineral ratios based on historical data, Bryant said, his fingers flying across the controls. Sarah, prepare 3 units of the base compound. The medical synthesizer produced a second batch. Henderson's voice cut through. You need a catalyst. The fungal structure won't break down without weight. His voice grew excited. Human blood plasma, the protein markers could trigger the antifungal response. Bryant grabbed a collection kit, starting plasma extraction. The needle slid into his arm as the station's sensors picked up the approaching Cation vessels. Military vessel detected, the AI announced. Class for destroyer, weapons systems active. The smallest cub's organs began shutting down. Bryant loaded the plasma-enhanced treatment into an injection unit, beginning administration of experimental treatment. Sarah transmitted the medical data through encrypted channels as Bryant monitored the cub's vital signs. The glowing lesions dimmed, then began to fade. Tiny patches of fur started pushing through the damaged skin. The station's comm system activated. A harsh voice filled the medical bay. Nexus 7, this is Captain Vren of the Cation Defense Force. You are in violation of Article 7 of the Interstellar Medical Protocols. Surrender control of your station immediately. Ambassador Cora's ship maintained radio silence, but its weapons powered up. The Cub's monitoring devices showed strengthening vital signs as the treatment took effect. They need more time, Bryant said, preparing additional doses. At least 12 hours for full stabilization. Sarah accessed the station's defense protocols. I've distributed the treatment data across secure networks. They can't erase what we've done here. The military vessel's engines flared as it moved into attack position. Bryant administered the final doses to the cubs, watching their fur slowly regenerate. The station's radiation shields groaned under the solar flare's continued assault. 53 minutes until the Cation ships reached the station. Bryant checked the cub's latest readings. The treatment was working, but they remained critically fragile. He turned to Sarah. Help me prepare the emergency medical shuttle. If they breach the station, we'll need a backup plan. The station's proximity alerts blared as Billy secured the last cub in the emergency medical shuttle. His display flashed with an incoming transmission and Earth Defense Force signature. Medical Station Nexus 7, this is Commander James Wilson of the EDF Hyperion, a gruff voice announced. We detected unauthorized shuttle activity and intercepted your data broadcasts. Hold your position. The massive form of the Hyperion emerged from behind Phobos, its engine wake casting blue-white light across the station's viewport. The warship slid into position between Nexus 7 and the approaching Cation vessels. Thank God, Sarah whispered, fingers flying across the power distribution console. Radiation shields at 38%. Life support failing in sectors 8 through 12. The smallest cub's vital signs fluctuated on Billy's medical display. He adjusted the plasma infusion rate, watching the bioluminescent patches fade further. The station groaned as another radiation wave hit. Cation vessels, this is Commander Wilson. Under the Interstellar Medical Sovereignty Act, These patients are under Earth jurisdiction. Stand down your approach. The main screen lit up with an incoming transmission request. Private channel, a female voice said. Ambassador Cora requesting direct communication. Billy accepted the transmission. The ambassador's face appeared regal features, silver-streaked fur, eyes that held both fear and calculation. Dr. Bryant, I tracked them here deliberately. Your facility's research reputation. I knew humans would try to save them, protocols be damned. A new alert: the Cation military vessel launching smaller craft. Boarding shuttles detected, the AI announced. Multiple trajectories. Admiral Kraz will not allow this treatment to succeed, Cora said. The implications for our medical traditions. The transmission cut as the station's power fluctuated again. Sarah's console sparked. Structural integrity compromised. Microfractures in medical bay containment. 17 minutes to critical failure, the AI added. Billy transmitted the latest medical data to both Cation ships' cellular regeneration rates, genetic markers showing the fungal infection's retreat, proof the treatment wasn't just masking symptoms but providing a cure. Doctor, Henderson's voice came through the Mars link. These results, the human plasma catalyst is revolutionary. It's rewriting their genetic response. The Hyperion's weapons powered up as Admiral Kraz's shuttles approached. Final warning, Wilson broadcast. Any hostile action against this station will be considered an act of war. Billy initiated the emergency broadcast protocol, uploading complete treatment specifications to the station's transmission buffer. One button press would send it to every medical facility in Earth and Cation space. The smallest cub opened its eyes, focusing on Billy for the first time since treatment began. Its fur had regrown in patches, healthy skin visible beneath. The monitoring equipment showed stable vital signs across all three cubs. Containment breach in 15 minutes, Sarah reported. We need to evacuate now. The station rocked as the first boarding shuttle locked onto an auxiliary airlock. Metal screamed against metal. Security feeds showed armed Cation troops cutting through the outer doors. Commander Wilson, Billy called through the comm. We need immediate evacuation. The cubs won't survive a containment failure. Understood. Hyperion moving to extract. The transmission cut off as a massive power surge hit the station. Emergency lights flashed red. Through the viewport, Billy watched the Hyperion's defense screen shimmer as it maintained position between them and Kraz's approaching forces. Containment failure in 12 minutes, the AI announced. Emergency protocols initiated. Billy checked the cubs' vital signs one last time. The treatment was working. They would live if he could get them off the station in time. He looked at Sarah, then at the approaching Cation boarding shuttles, and reached for the emergency broadcast control. Everything they discovered here could save countless Cation lives. He just had to ensure the data survived the next 12 minutes. The station's hull groaned as another radiation wave hit. Behind him, the medical bay doors began to cycle open. Through the medical bay's viewport, Billy watched another Cation boarding shuttle lock onto the station's hull. His display flashed with an incoming transmission, this time from Ambassador Cora's vessel. Invoking ancestral right of medical authority under Statute 274, Cora's voice rang through the comm. Authorization code Delta 793. She transmitted a data packet that scrolled across Billy's screen: genetic markers, birth records, official documentation. As genetic mother of these cubs, I demand cessation of all military action against this facility. The approaching shuttles froze in space. Admiral Kraz's voice cut through the channel. Ambassador, you overstep. The law is absolute, Admiral. Would you violate our most sacred genetic rights? The Hyperion's massive form shifted, extending its energy field. The station's structural integrity readings stabilized as the warship's advanced shields enveloped them. Dr. Bryant, Commander Wilson called. Dr. Harrison has prepped our auxiliary bay for medical reception. Get those cubs ready for transport. Sarah's hands flew across the environmental controls. Route C7 is still stable. We can reach docking port 3 through the maintenance tunnels. She pulled 3 specialized transport incubators from storage, their displays lighting up as she initialized life support. Billy stared at the medical synthesizer. The treatment. We can't move the equipment. His mind raced back to his field medic days during the Mars colonial wars. He grabbed 3 emergency medical packs, tearing open their panels. Sarah, I need the mineral samples and your emergency filtration unit. His fingers worked quickly, modifying the pack's delivery systems while Sarah prepared the cubs for transport. The station groaned as another section lost pressure. Containment breach in Section 4, the AI announced, its voice distorting. System. Error. Recalibrating. A message flashed from Henderson on Mars. Colonial Medical Corps responding. 15 donors inbound to Hyperion. ETA 12 minutes. Billy inserted a fresh plasma collection line into his arm, watching red liquid flow into the modified pack. The smallest cub's vitals fluctuated as Sarah transferred it to the incubator. Treatment rejection, Billy called out, adjusting the plasma ratio in the delivery system. The cub's reading stabilized. Admiral Kraz's voice filled the channel again. All shuttles continue approach. This treatment violates Section 12 of Genetic Security Protocol. The Hyperion's point defense turrets activated. Precise energy pulses struck the boarding shuttle's engines, leaving them dead in space. Structural collapse imminent, the AI warned, its voice breaking into static. 9 minutes to critical failure. Billy connected the last modified pack to the third cub's incubator. Sarah led them into the maintenance tunnel, emergency lights casting red shadows as they navigated through the failing station. The cub's incubators floated on magnetic fields, gliding smoothly despite the station's increasing instability. This is Ambassador Cora to all Cation vessels in range. Her voice echoed through every channel. I am transmitting full medical documentation of the human treatment's success. My children live because these humans defied protocol to save them. Let it be known, the tunnel shook violently. Billy steadied the nearest incubator as Sarah checked her tablet. Port 3, 200 meters ahead. Through the hull, they heard the Hyperion's medical shuttle coupling with the station. Lieutenant Rogers' voice crackled through their comms. Docking clamps engaged, but the seals are failing. You've got 2 minutes, tops. Metal screamed around them as they reached the airlock. The smallest cub's vital signs spiked again. Billy adjusted the treatment flow while Sarah cycled the door. Warning, the AI's voice came through in fragments. Critical. System. Failure. The airlock opened to reveal the Hyperion's shuttle. They pushed the incubators through as the station's superstructure began to tear itself apart. Rogers sealed the hatch the moment they cleared it. 3 Cation warships detected, Wilson announced as their shuttle detached. Approaching from Sector 7. They watched through the shuttle's viewport as Nexus 7 broke apart behind them, decades of medical research dissolving into space. The Hyperion's massive cargo bay doors opened to receive them, its medical bay already filling with plasma donors from Mars. Billy checked the cub's vital signs as they touched down. 8 more hours of treatment needed. He looked up at the approaching Cation warships, knowing the next few hours would test not just his medical skills, but humanity's ability to protect their vulnerable patients without igniting a war. The shuttle's rear hatch opened to reveal Dr. Harrison and his medical team waiting to help transfer the cubs. Behind them, more Colonial Corps volunteers arrived, ready to provide the plasma needed to keep the treatment flowing. As the medical team rushed to transfer the cubs into the Hyperion's converted medical bay, the ship's sensors detected 3 Cation warships entering Mars' orbital zone. Commander Wilson's tactical display lit up with new signatures, the EDF cruisers Vigilant and Defiant arriving at full thrust. Defensive Formation Alpha, Wilson ordered as Captain Drake and Captain Stone's ships took flanking positions. Medical Priority 1. Maintain shield coverage. In the medical bay, Billy connected the modified treatment packs to the Hyperion's more sophisticated delivery systems. The smallest cub's vitals spiked dangerously on his display. Immune cascade. He called to Dr. Harrison. Need to adjust the plasma ratios. Harrison's fingers flew across the medical synthesizer. Cellular rejection detected, modifying binding proteins. Lieutenant Foster organized the growing line of Colonial Corps volunteers into organized shifts, processing them through preliminary medical screening. Next 3 donors to Bay 4, he directed. Maintain hydration protocols. Sarah's voice came through the intercom. Environmental adjustments complete. Optimizing atmospheric mix for Cation physiology. The deck plates hummed as Chief Rodriguez diverted power from secondary systems. Medical bay drawing 30% more than projected, he reported. Implementing emergency conservation measures. A priority transmission cut through all channels. This is Fleet Marshal Tyros of the Cation Defense Force. Surrender the Cubs immediately under Article 7 of the Genetic Preservation Act. Before Wilson could respond, Ambassador Cora's face appeared on the main display. She transmitted a data stream that scrolled across Billy's medical console centuries of classified medical records. These cases, Billy said, studying the genetic markers. The same fungal strain, dating back generations. He adjusted the treatment parameters, incorporating the new data. The 2 stronger cubs' fur continued regenerating, bioluminescent patches fatting to healthy skin. The smallest cub's monitoring equipment blared another warning. Billy rushed to its side, checking the modified plasma delivery system. The cub's eyes opened, focusing on him with surprising clarity. Its immune response readings shifted from critical to stable. Natural antibody production detected, Harrison announced. The treatment's not just fighting the infection, it's teaching their immune systems to recognize it. The Hyperion shuddered as its power grid strained under the combined load of medical systems and defensive screens. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the comm, rerouting power from decks 5 through 8. Shield capacity at 84%. Dr. Bryant, Wilson called. Multiple civilian vessels approaching Cation medical ships requesting access to verify treatment protocols. Fleet Marshal Tyros cut in. This unauthorized genetic modification constitutes a biological weapon under transmitting full treatment analysis. Wilson interrupted, sending the data compiled by Dr. Henderson. All components comply with Interstellar Medical Board regulations. The 2 stronger cubs stirred in their enclosures, attempting to groom each other through the sterilization field. Their vital signs showed steady improvement across all markers. Ambassador Cora to Fleet Marshal Tyros. The ambassador's voice rang with authority. I hereby request asylum under Earth protection for myself and my children. You know the law, martial genetic rights supersede military authority. The smallest cub's readings continued to stabilize as Billy fine-tuned the treatment delivery. Through the medical bay's viewport, he watched the civilian Cation ships approach, their transponders identifying them as research vessels from leading medical institutions. Harrison reviewed the incoming sensor data from the cub's cellular scans. Complete remission in the primary infection sites. Secondary immune response holding steady. The Hyperion's power grid fluctuated again as Rodriguez balanced the competing demands of medical systems and defensive screens. The civilian ships held position just outside the Earth Defense Force perimeter, waiting for permission to dock and verify the treatment's effectiveness. Billy checked the smallest cub's latest readings, knowing the next 12 hours would prove critical for all 3 patients. The cub reached out with one tiny paw, touching the enclosure's transparent barrier as its siblings watched with increasing alertness. Through the medical bay windows, The standoff between Earth and Cation forces continued in silence, while inside, the quiet beeping of medical equipment marked each step toward recovery. A priority alert flashed across the main display. High Counselor Razak's ornate vessel emerged from hyperspace, its ancient hull decorated with the intricate patterns of Cation medical tradition. The arrival cast immediate ripples through both fleets. Receiving transmission from Cation High Council, Lieutenant Foster announced, routing the message to Commander Wilson's station. The Council's decision scrolled across screens throughout the Hyperion. Before Wilson could respond, Chief Rodriguez's voice cut through the comm. Power distribution node 7 is failing. Radiation damage from the solar flare. We're losing stability in the shield grid. Billy monitored the Cub's vital signs as the ship's lights flickered. The smallest Cub whom the medical team had begun calling Hope stretched a tiny paw toward him through the isolation field. Her fur showed the first signs of regeneration, bioluminescent patches fatting to healthy skin. "Sarah, I need you in engineering," Rodriguez called. "We've got to reroute power through the secondary systems or we'll lose both shields and medical." Sarah squeezed Billy's shoulder as she rushed past. "Keep them stable. I'll make sure you have the power to do it." The ship's deck plates vibrated as Rogers guided the medical shuttle out to retrieve Admiral Kraz's stranded boarding teams. Through the viewport, Billy watched the disabled Cation shuttles drift, their life support systems failing. "Remarkable," Dr. Harrison said, examining the latest scan results. "The human plasma proteins aren't just fighting the infection, they're enhancing their entire immune response. Look at these markers." Billy studied the data. "Their bodies are developing resistance to multiple Cation pathogens. The treatment's rewriting their immune profile." The two stronger Cubs watched the medical staff intently, mimicking Harrison's gestures as he adjusted equipment. Their vital signs showed steady improvement across all readings. The ship shuddered again. Rodriguez's voice crackled through static. "Rerouting power through auxiliary node 12. Medical systems at 90%. Multiple contacts," Wilson announced. "Debris field from Nexus 7 approaching our position. Captain Drake is coordinating with Cation civilian vessels for emergency clearance." Outside, the Vigilance tractor beams activated in sync with Cation ships, deflecting chunks of twisted metal away from their formation. The improvised cooperation drew watching crews from both sides. High Counselor Razak's ship docked with practiced precision. The ancient vessel's airlock cycled, revealing the distinguished Cation medical authority. His formal robes bore centuries of medical achievement in their intricate patterns. "I request permission to observe your treatment protocol," Razak stated, his ears forward with scientific interest. Billy nodded to Harrison, who began compiling their documentation while maintaining the Cubs' treatment schedule. More Colonial Corps volunteers arrived from Mars, forming organized lines as Foster directed them through medical screening. "Power spike in Medical Bay 4, Sarah reported from engineering, compensating through secondary systems. Hope's vital signs jumped, then stabilized as Billy adjusted the treatment ratio. Her siblings pressed against their enclosure walls trying to reach her. Their fur continued regenerating, matching her accelerated healing. The deck plates groaned as Rodriguez diverted power from non-essential systems. Warning indicators flashed across engineering, displays the Hyperion's power grid strained under the combined load of medical equipment and defensive screens. 4 hours remaining in critical treatment phase, Harrison announced, transmitting the latest data to Razak's team. The Cation medical specialists crowded around their displays, analyzing the unprecedented results. Fleet Marshal Tyros maintained his battle formation, but his ships held position as debris clearance operations continued. The sight of human and Cation crews working together to protect their vessels resonated through watching crews. Billy checked Hope's latest readings as her tiny form curled contentedly in the isolation field. The treatment's success represented more than survival, it challenged fundamental assumptions about species compatibility. But as the power grid fluctuated again, he knew their work wasn't finished. The next 4 hours would test the limits of both human engineering and Cation medicine. Sarah's voice came through the comm, power node 16 failing, switching to emergency protocols. "We need to transfer all critical medical systems to the Cation vessels," Rodriguez announced through the static-filled comm. "It's our only option before total grid failure." Billy exchanged glances with Commander Wilson and Ambassador Cora. The ambassador's ears flattened briefly before rising in acceptance. "The civilian medical ships have state-of-the-art intensive care facilities," she said. "Their power systems are designed specifically for complex medical operations." Wilson nodded. "Lieutenant Foster, coordinate with Cation medical teams. Begin transfer preparations." The medical bay transformed into a synchronized dance of human and Cation personnel. Billy supervised as technicians locked down the Cub's portable life support units. Each movement followed precise quarantine protocols, the sealed medical tunnels extending between vessels like delicate silver threads. Sarah's voice guided engineering teams through power transfer sequences. Maintaining continuous feed to treatment systems, phase matching at 98%. The Cubs remained stable throughout the transfer. Hope's eyes tracked Billy's movements as her enclosure passed through the connection tunnel. Her fur had regenerated completely, displaying striking silver streaks where the infection had carved its deepest paths. "Remarkable adaptation," High Counselor Razak observed, examining the unique pattern. "The cellular reconstruction has incorporated elements of both species' healing responses." In the adjacent chamber, the two older Cubs pressed against their enclosure walls as Ambassador Cora approached. Their tiny paws reached toward her, tails curling with recognition. "Power transfer complete," Sarah reported from the engineering junction. "All medical systems operating on Cation power grid." Rodriguez's team immediately began dissecting the Hyperion's damaged power nodes. The acrid smell of burnt circuitry filled the engineering decks as they extracted failed components. On the Cation medical ships, Dr. Harrison worked alongside their specialists, documenting every aspect of the treatment's final phase. The Colonial Corps volunteers moved efficiently through their last round of plasma donations, their dedication unwavering. "Immune response exceeding normal Cation baseline by 30%, a Cation doctor announced, analyzing the latest results. "Complete elimination of fungal markers in all tissue samples." High Counselor Razak reviewed the accumulated data, his expression growing increasingly impressed. "This treatment protocol represents a revolutionary advancement in cross-species medicine." He activated a priority channel to the High Council. "I recommend immediate implementation across all Cation medical facilities." The Council's response came swiftly. Fleet Marshal Tyros received new orders, his ships smoothly transitioning from battle formation to escort positions. As Rodriguez's team completed the power grid repairs, Billy supervised the Cubs' return transfer to the Hyperion. Their final examination confirmed what the readings had shown: complete recovery across all measures. Ambassador Cora watched her children exploring their enclosure with renewed energy. She approached Billy, removing an ornate medallion from her formal robes. "The symbol of life," she said, placing it around his neck, "never before given to one not born of Cation." The ship's communication system activated. "New orders from Earth Command," Wilson announced. "We're to escort Ambassador Cora and family to Earth. The first Cation medical research facility will be established there." Admiral Kraz's ships moved into formation alongside the Earth Defense Force vessels. The same crews who had faced each other in combat now coordinated their escort patterns with professional precision. Billy stood on the observation deck, watching Mars shrink against the star field. He heard soft footsteps behind him. Ambassador Cora approached, her cubs moving freely around her. "I want you to know their names," she said softly. "Hope, Faith, and Unity." The cubs raced across the deck, their silver-streaked fur catching the starlight. Hope scaled Billy's leg, while her siblings tumbled playfully around their mother's feet. Unity batted at the symbol of life hanging from Billy's neck, the ancient medallion reflecting pinpoints of light across the observation window. The Hyperion's engines hummed as they accelerated toward Earth, the combined human and Caitian fleet keeping perfect formation. Sarah's voice came through the comm, reporting power systems operating at peak efficiency. In the medical bay, Dr. Harrison continued documenting the treatment protocols with his Caitian colleagues, while Rodriguez fine-tuned the repaired power grid. Through the observation window, stars streaked past as Hope perched on Billy's shoulder, her tiny claws gentle against his uniform. Her siblings chased each other around the deck, their enhanced immune systems evident in their boundless energy. The fleet moved steadily through space, their combined ships illuminated by Mars'